Hello everyone, I'm Reborn. This is my first time making a guide and or giving tips about a class in regards to Neverwinter on YouTube, so I'll give this a shot. I'm going to address my build and some of the tactics I use inside the trial, which have given me success, and hopefully other people can pick up on them, glean any information, glean anything that may help you. My build is as follows. I used the new helm inside the trial for stats, the HP chest from MSOD for HP, the new gloves from the trial for the awareness and for the threat generation, masterwork weapons, the upgraded rugged boots. I swap between Apocalypse and Marilith set for whichever the group needs. I use Watcher's Gaze and Manticore Ring Diamond Abyssal Loot for threat, and then I mainly use the two new pants for item level. Correction, the shirt for item level and the pants for the crit avoidance. Because I'm on debuff, more Jades would be efficient in my offense slots, but I don't have 4 Jades, so I only have 2 unfortunately. I use Unholy Protection and Bulwark of Brimstone in a trial, and I'm using the new Rhyme Temper. I don't have Volcano, so typically I'm Mythalar, but if the group needs you to swap off, use whatever debuff party the group needs you to use. Your other artifacts as a tank obviously will be 15% stamina artifacts. In regards to powers, the encounters I use in the trial do not change between bosses. I always use Enforced Threat, Knight's Valor, and Shield Throw. Even on the green boss, I use Shield Throw. For my class features, I use Greater Endurance for the movement speed, and Still Recovery in order to have Knight's Valor generate stamina quickly. My dailies swap between Second Wind and Earthshaker, and Determination for those clutch moments when you need to stay alive. Brazen Slash and Threatening Rush are the two at-wills I use. I personally do not play with staying power. Other individuals do. I do not like it. I prefer playing with Shield Throw, so I used the Shield Thrower feat. This build has Rising Tide only because there are different bosses where I need Bold Charge to act as a knockback. A good example is the first boss of the Imperial Citadel, pushing back the snake when you do not have a DPS or healer CCing the snake, as well as Demon Web Pits, the final boss, pushing the spiders off the edge. For those reasons only, I do not use Cleaving Bowl. I'm not really sure if it matters. I use Combat Balance and Perfect Block, and then I use Shake It Off as my final feat for the retaliate damage. For guild boons, I use Critical Strike because I need more crit in order to proc my debuffs. For your defense, slot whatever you need for stats. I personally use movement speed. I do not use the res sickness boon. Even if I have skulls, I stay on movement speed. I just eat a caprice. In regards to boons, these are my boons. You can pause the screen if you want to take a closer look. My dump stat in boons is the critical strike. Once I cap out and finish the campaign, then my crit strike boons will be finished. In regards to companions, use whatever the group needs. Typically your tanks will be on either Tutor or Flapjack, so both sides are guaranteed combat advantage, but also some groups lately have been sticking us on dump companions since they get stuck in the maze. So just use whatever your group decides to use. In regards to companion gear, I use 2 of the 2600 item level comp gears that give defense and crit avoidance, and then 1 of the deflect comp gears, both 2600. Ever since the new mod, the comp gear has been easier to get and is very cheap compared to what it used to be from Tenebra. In regards to companions and their bonuses, Raptor, Lich, Deep Crow, Slime, and Brunor are the ones I use. In regards to mounts, Lionheart's Perseverance, Ally's Resilience, Guardian Spirit, and Champion's Return are the bonuses I choose to use. I do not use a gladiator's gal because my movement speed is already 65% without a bard and without Rathmodar. If you need more movement speed, then slot one accordingly as you need. My collars, I use the incoming healing, recharge speed, at wills, stamina gain, and I am not spending the money to upgrade rough astral diamonds to mythic. It's worthless in my opinion. In regards to threat, start running towards the boss, throw shield throw, threatening rush towards the boss to help with positioning, as well as adding the and stacking the threat multiplier, position for combat advantage, and then I toss my hawk or owl bear if you have it. After attacking the boss with some brazen slashes and animation canceling threatening rushes, typically you're able to proc retaliate, and then you will use your Earthshaker and or Second Wind during the Arde Call to proc Manticore. Typically once threat is established, you will be able to spam and force threat off cooldown. I typically hold it for the first 20 seconds, 20-25 seconds or so to make sure that I have threat established after the Arde Call in case the boss does not attack me to proc retaliate and or Manticore. Common examples of this are Ice Boss. The DPS like the Arde when it's the ring attack, and the Ice Boss does not always initiate an attack that does damage on you, which would proc retaliate and your Manticore. So sometimes on ice you need to save your hard taunt to pull the aggro back off of the DPS. I'm going to now show a few examples of green boss because that is most likely which boss tanks struggle with the most. And then I will also talk about some positioning on the other bosses to help keep the DPS alive and accommodate for different features and what some call bugs in a trial. When tanking the red boss, there are 3 different tank busters that occur. The common one is the overhead slam, where the big circle shows up at your feet, and the proper way to deal with this is to move backwards, move the circle tank buster away from the DPS and the healer so they do not get hit in the area of effect of the tank buster. That is the common one that everyone can see. The 2 other tank busters involve the clones. There is a skull that shows up above your head for one of the tank busters, and then the other tank buster is a flame. The red skull is, I believe, where all 3 clones target you, and the flame is when that one clone will one-shot you and spawn from the boss. A good example of this is showed on the screen now. After positioning the boss properly in this corner, where no meteors, or what most groups like to call Hiroshima, spawn, as well as the black orbs do not spawn. This corner is safe for the DPS and is the corner where the boss should be tanked. The steps to the left is also in range of your healers, so your healers can heal you from the steps if the clones are aggroed and focused on them. Some groups say that the clones are bugged on people when they choose to target them. I would argue that DPS are failing to do their job and failing to CC and control the clones. The animation as above my head is the flame attack. I'll pause here. I angle my camera here and show. This is where the multiple clones attack you. Sometimes this overlaps with other mechanics. As you see, the AoE tank buster is also on me at the same time. Sometimes you get overlapping mechanics. I have one death stack in this clip. But that skull is the other mechanic that you have to look out for. Let me me try to get another frame picture of it. Right there. The laughing skull that shows up above your head. Again, those are the 3 tank buster mechanics on red. The circle AoE that you move backwards and you position away from the DPS. The flame above your head, which signifies the multiple clones focused in attacking on you. And then the single skull, which is the one-shot single clone that comes up, uppercuts you, and takes you out if you are not blocking from a tank. Those are the 3 mechanics on red. Again, remember, position red in this corner because it is in range of the healer on the steps, and the steps also protect the healer if the multiple clones are not focused on you as the tank and are focused on the healer. This is a POV of the opener for Blue Boss, Ice. This one is frustrating because the boss likes to move around a lot and is not very receptive to repositioning. This boss is also annoying because when the DPS want to artifact, we cannot proc Manticore half the time because the boss does not initiate another attack, which allows us to proc Retaliate and reflect Manticore. So, as you see for this article, I hold off and I do not use Enforced Threat to debuff during the article. I save it to ensure that in case the DPS steals aggro with Prophecy of Doom or other high-hitting encounters, that I can take the threat right back. Their Threatening Rush on the ice makes me zoom. Doing that in MSOD can sometimes get you killed. Just be careful for that. I saved Enforced Threat in order to retake the threat, which I did. That DPS died to a rune and not because of the lost threat. Now the threat is established, I will be able to proc Manticore later, and, well, it's more evidence and proof that you don't need Manticore in order to secure threat. It just makes it nice and safe. Try to position the boss when you can so that the DPS can stand in a somewhat safe position. Hindsight 2020, I should have been where that rune just spawned, allowing Riley to be closer to the center. When the DPS are 90 degrees, they can avoid the Hiroshima meteor attack. Riley just has to dodge towards me in case the Hiroshima were to occur in this scenario. However, if I were to reposition in this clip to where Julio is standing, it would be less travel distance and less risk to them. There would be less overlapping fields of AoE for the DPS. Here is an example of my green opener. Like I previously stated, I still use shield throw for green. Whenever you enter a new biome or a new boss area, make sure you hard taunt the boss to establish threat, making sure the DPS don't get one shot. Hard taunt, shield throw, threatening rush, stack it with Hulk, and then use daily to proc Manticore. That will give you a very good threat. Start pre-moving for green once you see the mechanic for orbs being spawned, and then try to rotate near where your healer is to make the healer's job easier. As you see here, I rotate towards the DPS and toward my healer, my bard healer, so the healer is not chasing me down. On green, the reason I'm on this edge is because this area is a safe spawn for meteors, Hiroshima, and for the black balls that spawn. Right now, where the boss is positioned right now is still within meteor range, but it's generally safe. The DPS can move towards the door to avoid the mechanic for Hiroshima, as you see here. KV you can use to protect your DPS, as you saw there. It's dual purpose for protecting your DPS and healers when they're close, as well as for establishing threat. Another benefit to Tanking green near here is you can make the orbs fall off the edge sometimes. I will skip ahead in order to show that. Tanking near door, as you see here, is away from both Hiroshima and the black balls. And only two sets of mobs spawn nearby. One where Half Wizard is positioned now, and then a set of mob spawns where I am. Gene Granny is trying to wait out skulls. That's why that person is so far back. But that person is standing on a set of ad spawn, which does not get automatically triggered if your DPS and your tank and healers are in this area of the arena. Here's an example of how you can have the balls spawn off the arena. As you saw there, two of the orbs, rotting synthesis, I guess in this case plural syntheses, two of them spawned off the map as you saw, because I believe they're based off of player position. So I will show it again. You as a tank sometimes are able to dictate where the orbs spawn. Positioning yourself in this manner, I reduced 2 of 6 orbs that spawned, so I reduced the amount of orbs that DPS had to kill by 33%, which means they were able to attack the boss that much sooner. If your healer is struggling to heal you as a Guardian Fighter tank, once threat is established, you can comfortably swap off of Shield Throw, replace it with Knight's Challenge, and you can cycle between KV and Knight's Challenge in order to maintain your stamina. Additionally, you can then swap Earthshaker for Second Wind if you are more comfortable, if you want more HP during HP debuff.